there are pros and cons to both being single by choice and being single by default. So let's start with being single by choice. Like some of the some of the cons, some of the bad things that come along with, that is the fact that you can spend too many seasons of your life single by choice. That was my issue. Like real talk, that was my issue. I spent way too many seasons of my life in that season of I'm single by choice. And guess what? The other big thing about being single by choice, that's the downfall, is you can miss so many opportunities when you put yourself in a position of I am 100% focused and locked in. Why? Because that means you're in rejection mode. That means even if the thing that you need in your life, that thing that you've been praying and hoping and wishing that God will send your way, it comes in. Since you in 100% focus / rejection mode, it's a wrap. Like you don't even allow it to be entertained. You don't even consider it. That is definitely a huge con, a huge drawback of being single by choice. But as you could probably imagine, there's a lot more issues with being single by default. So let's talk about that. So single by default, one of the biggest things, and I've said it because I've experienced it, which is confusing it for being single by choice. Oh my goodness. It is so easy to slip from being single by choice. Like, yo, you may start off as single by choice, and then you just start to fade into that single by default. And that really happens when you allow that time to go for too long. Like I mentioned before, when you allow that single by choice season to just, go on and on and on and on and on, at some point you stop being single by choice and you are now just single by default. Like it has nothing to do with you pursuing some type of purpose or something that has to get your priority and your focus and your time in that season. Like, nah, it's just, you didn't just made the choice to just stay in that mode of passivity, right? Another one is, being single starts to become an excuse for you not actively dating or not dating at all, right? It becomes a really good excuse. I definitely have been there. People would be like, yo, you dating now? Nah, I'm not dating or in a relationship right now because, I'm single by choice. I'm working on me, or blah, 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 whatever I would say, right? But I soon recognized in hindsight, looking back, like, bro, I would say I'm single by choice. I'm single by choice. And that's the reason why I'm not dating. But yo, it eventually became an excuse. At one point when it started out, it was real. It was true. I definitely was single by choice because I was working on myself. I was developing myself. For me, spiritually, working on, creating content, building right to real love and everything like that. Like I had to be in a season to do those things. But those seasons ended and I still was using that excuse if I'm single by choice by not actively dating, not actively, being out there doing what I should have been doing in that season of my life, right? So that's definitely another one that you got to watch out for, ladies. And here's the kicker, right? Prolong the season. You're going to prolong it. It's going to be way too long. You're going to look up and you've been single by default for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, God forbid, 20 years of your life. You just single by default. You can count how many dates, how many relationships you've been in on one hand. God forbid, 2 hands even, right? 2 hands in 20 years? Like, yo, come on now. We ain't out here serial dating, but let's be real. If we are dating less than one person a year over 20 years, that's not a good look. That's something that needs to be addressed, especially if you have a desire to get in a relationship, meet a great guy, and eventually get married, right? And the other one, this is another heavy one, right? Sis, like, let's get real for a second. Being single by default can actually mask some of your fears and your insecurities, like rejection. And I'm going to be real. I'll be transparent, right? Like me, I spent a lot of time, I would say about maybe 5 years. I wasted a good 5 years, I think in my late 20s, early 30s, right? I was saying I was single by choice, like I mentioned before, using it as an excuse. And the main reason why was because of the fact that I was masking some insecurities that I had. around the time that I launched Right to Real Love and, kind of started this journey, I also had took a major leap of faith. I walked away from a great job that was paying me some buku bucks, and I went to having to, scrape and try to find a way to be able to take care of myself financially. And that was a huge adjustment to go from a position where money was not an issue when it came to, any area of my life for the most part, to now being in a place where, like, not that I couldn't afford a date, but it was just more so like that inner turmoil of like, yo, I don't even make as much as I was making. And what woman gonna want to be with me if I ain't even making as much as I was making? Like, those was kind of the thoughts that I had going through my mind. But I'm saying, oh, I'm single by choice because I'm working on myself or developing it. But nah, it was being masked by the fact that, yo, I had some insecurities about the amount of money I was making and what I thought women would perceive in me if I wasn't at a place that I had been before, when I was out there actively dating and doing my thing, right? Because I had that level of confidence knowing that, my paper and all of that stuff is together. Now, for ladies, it might be a little bit different, right? Like, I can't really speak from a woman's perspective, but maybe you can share if you're willing to do that. I know that women oftentimes will mask some fears and some insecurities as well, right?